Okay, so yeah, I don't think OBS likes me doing videos today, I guess. But anyway, so the question was, both of those games used procedural generation, but they had very different results, okay, and very different receptions. And so I'd like to kind of give you a hint as to why that is, right? So why is procedural generation dangerous? Well, what could go wrong in a game like Spelunky? So Spelunky map looks like this, and there's this really, really cool tool that Tiny Subversion's made online that allows you to generate your own Spelunky level. Actually, let's see if we can do it. What happens, so R to generate a totally new level, okay? So R, hey, come on. Oh, I don't think it works in Firefox. That's a darn shame. Hold on. Okay, so we got a Spelunky level, right? And you know it's right in front of my face now. That's okay. But you can see as we generate new levels, right, that we can generate a lot of really diverse stuff for you to traverse. But what's interesting is that within each of these tiles, right, it's a 4x4 tile map, and each block, each tile has a certain number of blocks and tiles in it. And so what you notice is that this game never ever asks you to go up. Okay, the game never asks you to go up. In this map, in the top left, my cursor's disappearing, you start in the top left, you go all the way to the right where you can fall through the floor, you go all the way to the left, then all the way to the right again, and then all the way to the left again, I think, for the escape door. And so this game, even though it's procedurally generated, it has some very specific and kind of designerly rules. Okay, the game is never allowed to force the player to go up. Why is this? Well, gravity is really an inhibitor to that kind of thing, and we can't guarantee the player has a rope to like climb and go up. So the procedural generation algorithm always needs to guarantee that from the starting door to the ending door, players have a path that only takes them horizontal or downward, because they can always go in those directions, right? Thanks to gravity. They can't go up always, though. What's interesting as well is that each of these stages is actually picked from a template, right? So these rooms have probabilistic tiles in them, but they were actually designed by the dev, right? The designer went in and kind of drew a base for each room, okay? And you can see this. I'm changing probabilistic tiles, but I'm not changing the structure of each room, okay? And so what happens is you get structures and designs for each of these 16 tiles that you can guarantee are going to work. But you can spice them up and make them unique by kind of swapping out what is going to be where. You can go a little bit further than that, right? If we press 2, we can keep tiles and templates, but new obstacle blocks will appear, right? So the general structure of each room kind of stays similar, but there are some more probabilistic tiles that are like obstacles that can appear or they can not appear, and that really gives the rooms a different flavor, even though they all kind of have similar motifs within that room, all right? So this is to say that Spelunky, really, it's a hand-designed game. If it feels like it's hand-designed, it's because it is. Let me get my text back over here. And it's used more of as a tool, an aid, a spice, rather than the entire point of the game, okay? So here's how the algorithm works, okay? In Spelunky, you create a starting room, you just randomly choose one in the uppermost row, okay? Why uppermost? Well, because we couldn't put it on the bottom, because we can't guarantee that our player can go up, right? That would be a soft lock, and it'd be a bad stage. People would not like it. We randomly create a room to the left or right or down of where we currently are. So if we start in the top left room, we can go right, we can go down. That's just random choice, okay? We select a room from a template of possible rooms, and then we spawn or ignore some probabilistic tiles within that room to make it kind of a unique instance of that room design, okay? We then repeat number 2, but notice we can never ever go up, okay? We can never ever go up. And so what happens is, we go right once, we go down once, we go down once again, maybe we go right, we go down, we go left, left, and then down. If you try and go down and there's no more room left in the map, that is where you put your exit door, okay? And we have our critical path, okay? These are the rooms, boom, 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 that we need to make sure is unobstructed, that the player can traverse them without using an item, because they might not have any. And yeah, that's the critical path. We need to make sure this exists so the player can possibly get through the room even if they're at death's door and have no items at all. Now, notice every other room is not on the critical path, so we can fill it with anything we want. We can blockade it so that you can't get there without using a bomb, or we can have you go up into it so that you need to use a rope to get into it, right? And these designs can be filled with more dangerous and interesting stuff and goodies and loot, right, to encourage players to explore a stage thoroughly before they exit, all right? So the benefits of Spelunky's procedural generation, right? There's always a solution path, a critical path that doesn't require any items or fall damage, right? So that the player's never soft-locked or thrown into an unfair map, right? They always have at least a chance of getting through it. Traversal downwards is inherently easier than upwards, so there's less chance of soft-lock. That's why we always go top to bottom in this game. The template usage makes levels feel hand-designed, but the probabilistic elements of those templates allow them to also feel very unique, right? So you feel like you're doing different content all the time and seeing new designs. Probabilistic tiles make levels feel unique. And some takeaways here, right? Procedural generation and AI is a very powerful seasoning. It's a powerful tool, but it can't be the main dish, all right? You can think of it this way, right? You design some content as a designer. You use procedural generation to multiply your effort, but it can't replace that effort, okay? So it'll multiply you, but it tends to struggle in replacing you. Use it with care to get much more value out of your hand-designed content, all right? And that makes it a very powerful tool for indie teams and small teams. Okay, so let's keep going before we drop the stream again. And do not rely on it exclusively, okay? Otherwise, No Man's Sky sort of did that. It had a lot of design issues when it first came out. Its procedural generation couldn't really pick up the slack. Recent versions of No Man's Sky, I hear, are very, very popular and very fun and have fixed a lot of those issues. And here's an example. I want to show you a game called Cloudberry Kingdom, a really cool game that that found a way to procedurally generate a bunch of 2D side-scrolling levels, sort of like Spelunky, but purely procedurally generate them. And I mean, like, not a whole lot of hand design in it at all. To the point where you could tell the procedural generation algorithm to design a level so crazy that no human could really ever beat it, okay? It does this, but it's still possible to beat, technically. It does this by kind of simulating its way through the level. And here you can see a level, okay? Any one of these lasers kills you. Any one of these buzzsaws or spikes or fireballs kills you, okay? Are you looking at this? You are the little green character. You're bouncing over traps onto platforms that come out of nowhere and can barely be seen by the human eyes, right? These lasers going back and forth all kill you if they hit you dead center, I believe. And so, and it's a miserable 5 minutes long. You have to keep this focus up to get to the end, right? And then boing, and done. Boom, too easy, right? Whew, okay, that's a nightmare. All right, this game was not super well received because a lot of the stages, while you could generate an unlimited number of stages, none of them really felt hand design. I don't know that they had a really nice progression to them. It was just kind of random, you know? And randomness, humans don't like randomness all that much. We tend to prefer structure, even if that structure is randomized to a certain extent, okay? All right, so that cleans up that AI lecture. That thing's been with us for a long time, hasn't it? So it's gone. Say goodbye. You can revisit it, though, if you like. I'll post the agenda to the schedule in just a bit when we finish, okay? I want to talk about the course. I want to talk about your next steps, all right? And maybe what you might have gotten away from this and what you can take away, okay? All right. So, all right, so let's go ahead and recap some things about this course, okay? This right here, this is a magical idea. And it's something that I guess I felt a I had some knowledge of it, and I could feel if this was right? Hey, it's that classic phrase. If you at first you don't succeed, try and try again, right? But maybe it's not so much about trying and trying again, but trying again in a really, in a really thoughtful way, right? Taking data, taking observations, making a decision, and then testing it before taking more data, right? This process can help you in so many different ways, but we'll just get into that, okay? Does anyone know, chat, who this is? Does anyone know who this is? I get sentimental during this lecture every time, I'll tell you. This is, well, you probably don't know who this is, but you know his saying, okay? This is George Santayana. He was around in the late 1800s, okay? And he said, I believe he was a poet, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, okay? And you've almost certainly heard that before. It's used a lot in the context of rulers and history, right? If we don't remember our history, we're doomed to repeat its mistakes, right? But actually, you can localize this saying, right? Think about what this means for an individual, right? What about your individual history? What about the last year, okay? Right? What about the good stuff? Usually this is a warning, right? Don't repeat the mistakes of the past, but what about, why don't we keep carrying forward the things that worked, right? What about the good stuff? So here's the deal. You've invested heavily in EECS 494 this semester, okay? And it just behooves you to think about what this semester means across not only 494, but all of your courses, right? Review, reflect, make a plan. What do you want next, right? Is this just the end of the course or the next step in something more interesting? So this is a really, really cool device. And so this is maybe a little bit embarrassing. An anecdote for you, right? Reflecting, stopping to reflect, to think back about what happened, to collect data, to plan the next step, the next experiment, the next iteration, is really, really powerful. So here's what my Google Drive looks like. Every single night, I get an email in my inbox from a Google script that generates a new daily log for that day, sends it to my inbox and says, hey, Austin, why don't you write down what happened today? What's on your mind? What are you thinking about next? What went well? What didn't, right? What do you want to do? And this has been super, super helpful, right? You just kind of dump out your thoughts every day, maybe even a single paged space worth, a single spaced page worth, right? And I'll tell you, if you look at this pattern, I don't do it every day. And if I think back to the most effective and efficient and productive and satisfying and happy times in my life, it's always these times, right? When I'm thinking and I'm looking back and I'm trying stuff and I'm realizing quickly what isn't working, pivoting fast, all right? And times where I'm not reflecting as much tend to be a bit rougher, okay? And so some questions for you to start with, all right? What was gained, what was spent, and what comes next, right? You just spent a lot of time and energy and tuition money on EECS 494 and other courses. So what do you gain? What did you lose? And what are you going to do next? This could be anything. This could be money. This could be knowledge, influence, right? Relationships. You could have gotten satisfaction or just simple joy, right? Value in some form, right? Hopefully you got out of this course and other courses, but anything, right? Do that analysis. What did you gain from that investment you just made, right? What did you spend? What did you invest? Was it worth it? Did you lose money, tuition, stability, health, stress, right? Time, relationships, right? Sometimes we don't think about what we sacrifice when we choose to go on an adventure like this. I remember in my senior year, I really wanted to take EECS 381, an incredible, renowned class that powers you up with the incredible architecture knowledge and design patterns and deep C++ knowledge, right? But I couldn't. It was senior year. I had other big courses like 482 that I also wanted to take in 494. So I just couldn't do it, right? The spend on that course was very high, in my opinion, and I couldn't afford it, right? But time, relationships, right? Are you going to create the next big world-changing startups and maybe disappear for a while? Maybe your friendships kind of fall apart, right? So you got to think about this stuff. And then think, what comes next? Would you do it again, right? Was it worth it, right? You gained, you lost, was it worth it? Could you make tweaks to tip the balance? Maybe you can do something a bit different to gain more and lose less, right? Who could you work for now? How could you improve unrelated work, your workflow? How can you become more efficient and happier when you do this stuff, right? It's worth thinking about, and this will help you iterate, asking these questions. What was gained, what was lost, and how can I do better next iteration, okay? These are the iterative questions, and they're very personal to you, what you care about, and what you're going for, and what your situation is, okay? But the important part is that you ask yourself them. So this semester in 494, I hope you gained some knowledge, okay? This is a quick recounting of some of the stuff, and wow, there's a lot of stuff when you think about it, okay? Probably a bit too much. And these things in reds are things we couldn't do. I regret that you missed out on a couple field trips, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the course. But you still got to learn about game engine basics and composition as a design pattern. Hopefully you can take that forward and use it in tandem with inheritance on whatever code base you end up in next, right? Coroutines, right? The idea that you can suspend execution of a block of code, right, over a period of time and not frames is very, very powerful. Raycasting, searching through and querying 3D space and physics, right? Game engine basics, delegates, C# stuff, right? You analyzed classic games to see kind of how they functioned, why they functioned, and why their designs worked. You re-implemented a classic game that many people have heard of in like 2 weeks. It was incredible. You wrote about 10 plus pages of research and reflection on different parts of games, how they differ, and why that matters, what the impact was. You learned about guiding the player. You did a lot of feedback and playtesting sessions for other teammates. You learned a little bit about GPUs, juiciness, renders, animation, how to make mechanics deep, or at least what deep, accessible mechanics are, right? Adding complexity to a game isn't really what you want. You want to add depth, right? At the cheapest possible cost of additional complexity, right? And Nintendo is super, super well known for doing that, and other studios are as well. Right? You got some other stuff, some miscellaneous topics, business analysis tools, ecosystem maps, value chains. What on earth happened to Blockbuster, everyone? And the key question, who's next? That's the key question, because you don't want to be next after Blockbuster, right? And so you learned a little bit about games and art, right? The powerful impact of being able to not only show a character walking a mile in someone else's shoes, but with games, you can actually put players in those shoes and have them make similar decisions to what would actually be made in real life. It's a very powerful tool for building empathy, right? Games in education, right? Game feedback loops, right? A positive feedback loop that just ruins a game, right? Or a negative feedback loop that brings players together or consequently makes things maybe seem a little bit unfair, right? You got to understand these things and got to notice them so that you can make them work for you instead of against you. You've done some trailer production, right? Some advertising, marketing. You're generating screenshots and GIFs just today, right? You've put your dev blogs out in the public. Some exhibition techniques maybe, and then shaders, SIMD, and some basic professionalism like screen transitions and a bit of audio work too. Well, this is a lot of topics, and I really regret that we have to try and fit all of these in at a super basic level in like 4 months, okay? I think you could be done much, much greater justice on each of these topics, in each of these categories, if we had just a little bit more time. The good news, though, is that all of these things are going to be fun for you to research. They're really cool topics, very impactful ones, and hey, you can research stuff outside of this course if you want to, or you can go to Wolverine Soft Studio and you can work on it and practice it among your peers and get some cool portfolio stuff, right? But so gained, right? Not only knowledge and not just the future of games, right? You can make games, right? You're going to start making games, the likes of which will have impact. Right? You can start to see, how you would implement these various things. Cuphead, Horizon, right? Mario with these worlds and character controllers, right? To make it juicy. It's not just the future of games. It's the future, all right? So game dev and game dev technologies and techniques are everywhere now, and it's not going to stop. There's an expectation that even if you're doing research on a tiny little tool, it's going to be juicy. It's going to have trail renders, heat maps. It's going to be a beautiful visualization that plays back data and researchers can use, right? What about education? Taking your class around, taking your class around and showing them virtual areas, taking and placing them in the moment, in the context, in the history, right? To get a better appreciation of what's going on, right? What about visualization for products? Hey, okay, how about Nike or Adidas? Well, they'll hire you to create visualizations that let players kind of customize their shoe when they go to the booth, right? You're seeing these kind of interesting interactive exhibits everywhere now. If you go to conferences and if you go to corporate headquarters and stuff like that. What about for humanity, right? Really nice and thoughtful purposes. Spellbound, using augmented reality and interactivity to allow characters to come to life, right? To distract children during scary medical procedures, all right? What about visualizing your wedding, right? So kind of logistics, video games for logistics. Before you drop the big bucks, customize your wedding, have a good time doing it. And research, right? The cutting edge of technology. How can we make great agents that are multi-purpose and general and that can help humans out and make everyone's lives better? Well, fortunately, video games offer a cool little sandbox because many games are dramatic simplifications of the real world, right? And real world models. So games are just everywhere these days. And I'm so happy that you now have at least the basic tools and techniques at your disposal to make an impact in these different ways, all right? So game dev for research, right? You've already seen these, right? These two. What about NVIDIA? This is a really cool shot from NVIDIA's driving car simulator. I believe it's called, no, not VR Focus. But the idea was, it's really, really expensive and risky to put driverless vehicles on the road because, they're learning, they're training still, and they might crash. They might hurt somebody, they might damage some property, they might stop a few lanes of traffic when they suddenly freeze up and don't want to move. So, instead of paying for the crazy insurance costs to do that and the licensing fees and accidentally hurting someone maybe, let's put them in a virtual world. We're going to create a virtual world with game dev techniques and technologies. I think this is Unreal Engine, not Unity, that allows our agents to train without the risk of hurting anyone, right? So that's a really, really cool use. What about for visualization? You've seen the Bride View. You've seen, I don't think you've seen this. This is a game that Arbor Interactive made a game. It's actually a social media network animation that we made for a company in about 2 days. And what it does is it shows you people helping each other in a network by consuming a data set and drawing a line when people help each other. The bigger the nodes, the more helpful you are. I think the bigger and more red of the nodes, the more helpful you are. I don't think is it going to play. It's gonna play, team. My internet's kind of slow right now. Maybe we'll come back. All right. Hey, there it is. Well, too bad, I guess. Okay, so let's keep going. Game dev for humanity, right? Spellbound, right? We've talked about them a few times. Mainichi, right? Putting the players in someone else's shoes, right? To experience what daily life is like for them and the challenges they face, right? And getting big impact that way. Minecraft. Right? Helping educate students by putting them into a virtual world where they can explore and create and experiment and visit kind of simplified locations of areas with a teacher, with their classmates, learn digital literacy, learn to be good digital citizens with each other. It's just a great thing. It's inspiring. All of those are. What about game dev for professional life? Okay, after this class, after the feedback you've gotten, right? After the tutorials you've seen and the lectures you've seen. Okay, is this good guidance, right? Are you gonna ever create a presentation, I don't care on what topic, that looks like this? Chat, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it, chat? I'm gonna be at that presentation, okay? I'm gonna delete all that text you're gonna have going on, all right? Don't do this, all right? Don't do this, don't do that, all right? Big blocks of text, people don't want to read that, okay? So images, concise and timely text to give relevance and context, and videos, images, GIFs, things that grab someone's attention and then you can talk them through it, right? It's a good way to go. What about theme parks? I kid you not, the iterative dev process that was used to kind of understand how players react to something, understand how players react to a level design in a game, what they notice, what they look at, what drags them around, right? The UX. That stuff translates to the outside world too, right? Disney and theme park creators have to think about that constantly. Okay, what is going to attract people's attention? What is going to get them to do certain things that you need them to do? And what could go wrong, right? So hopefully you'll be able to use some of these techniques outside of game dev too, okay? I want to show you a really cool image or a video here. This is Steve Jobs at Macworld 2000. And what he's going to do is he's going to show you a really cool new feature of the dock, the Mac OS dock, because I believe it was new in this version or something. And what's amazing is that this is a technique that you'll know from game dev. But wow, listen to the crowd and how wild they go when they see it. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this down a little bit. Gonna ask Star Fox to be quiet for just a moment.
And I can put anything in here I want. I can put websites, I can put documents, I can put anything, applications, anything that I use, and I can rearrange them at will, and the dock just accommodates anything I want. When I drag something out, it gets bigger. Right? Now, a question would be, well, how small can it get? Well, it can get pretty small, actually. You can actually set the maximum tile size, and it'll shrink from there if you have more stuff. But you can actually say, well, it'll get really small. I can hold like 128 things here. How would I ever see them, though, if they get this small, or if I even prefer them this small? Well, we have something we call magnification, which works kind of like this.
PogChamp, right? Pog. So listen, think about this for a moment, right? This is something that, like, okay, adjusting scale is something that you have probably done in your Unity games, and it's kind of a basic intro juice technique, right? In games. It's everywhere in games. Even around this time, it was everywhere in games. But you know where it wasn't? In operating systems, okay? So here we see a game dev technique going into an operating system, a piece of software that usually does not concern itself so much with juiciness and the concept of juiciness. And yet here we have it, right? Apple brings it in, the crowd goes wild, like, oh my gosh, I've never seen something like this. Well, if you played games, you would have, but that's okay, right? And so, but the takeaway here is that these techniques you've got are impactful anywhere, all right? They can be impactful anywhere. We just need to find new uses for them. Okay, and I know you will. Let's keep going. Okay, what about game dev for simulation? All right, now a lot of simulations use a lot of kind of back-end or terminal programming. They don't necessarily all need a rich visual interface, but more and more these days, simulations, the kind that militaries and world governments and big corporations will pay an absurd amount for, like many millions of dollars for. They have game dev technologies and techniques going on, right? Heavy duty visualization. And the kind of technologies that they might use might be something like a Unity or an Unreal. And so you might find yourself having impact there as well, okay? Okay, the key to all of this, all right, and maybe one of your big takeaways for the course is just iteration, all right? You can't be afraid to put something out there and get some negative feedback. All right, get some criticism. Now you put something out there. It's not good. It's such a referendum on me. Oh, how can I show my face anymore? That's the feeling that's very easy to get, right? You put your project out there. Maybe some things aren't so great about it, and you just feel bad. You know, it feels really bad, and you don't want to put yourself out there again. You want to go hide. You want to move on to a different project, something that might might make you feel a bit better, might have some more instantaneous results and positive feedback. But that's not how you want to do it, okay? Think about it this way. The only way we really know where we're going and where we need to iterate and what we need to change is from that exact feedback that sometimes can make us feel a little bit bad, all right? And so the ability to analyze your current situation, design some changes to get to where you want, implement those changes, test them, and then look at the data not as a referendum on you, right? You know, the game isn't fun. That means you're not fun. No, that's ridiculous, right? I mean, you're making these changes in like a week. You made these games in like 5 weeks. It's absurd how quickly you made these, and you don't have to feel bad, right? In fact, you see, right? Remember the very first lecture we did, feedback as a gift, even if maybe sometimes it's less a new Nintendo Switch or PS5 and more kind of a lump of coal. Even a lump of coal can have some value, all right? But maybe not so much. So you just kind of put it away, say thank you. Or maybe the feedback you get is a gift, but it's more like socks at holidays, right? So it's, you know, it's thank you very much. You set it aside and then you move on, right? But you keep going around the circle and you eventually end up at a pretty darn good place. The key, though, is to keep going around, and it's so easy to give up, okay, and drop out a little bit early. Keep going around the circle in whatever activity you're trying to do, whether it's working out, right, whether it's becoming more sociable, whether it is learning a new skill like music or an instrument, right? Those first few weeks can be very nasty, right, and very confusing. But you make a little bit of progress every single week. You think, okay, am I learning this? Do I really understand? Do I need to adjust my study habits? Do I need to adjust how I wake up in the morning? Do I need a workout buddy in order to make it more likely that I'll go on that run every morning for 2 miles? You know, can we do 2.5? Can we do it with less walking, right? So you can iterate so many different parts of your life, and that is the true takeaway, I think, from this course. If nothing about the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks have taught you, it should have taught you that you can iterate an experience that maybe starts out pretty darn rough into something that is pretty darn cool, okay? If only you stick with it. So here's some more course takeaways. Multidisciplinary empathy, the power of iteration, and confidence with feedback, aka confidence listening. This is what I hope the takeaways are. You, of course, will have to decide on your own, all right? And let me know what you decide in your postmortems, because I'm very, that I use that to iterate the course. The entire staff does, okay? I have 2 final notes for you, okay? Goodhart's Law. Has anyone in chat heard of it? Goodhart's Law. So Goodhart was a British economist who had a really cool saying that at first may be a little bit confusing, but boils down to something very kind of profound, okay? He said, any observed statistical regularity will tend to collapse once pressure is placed upon it for control purposes, okay? That is to say, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, all right? Now, what does this even mean? Well, this is the rubric, okay? This is a rubric, I believe, for Project 3 Gold, okay? There are certain things on this rubric that you have to have. For instance, your game has to be novel. It has to have interesting decisions in it in memorable moments. It has to have guidance and technical soundness. It can't try to confuse the player. If the game tries to confuse the player, there's a very good chance that, or accidentally does, there's a very good chance that it is going to get wrecked on this rubric. That's not what you want, right? It has to be better than the previous iteration. It has to have juice and theming. It has to be very professional and smooth, right? But here's the thing, all right? While you're in this course, your games need to adhere to these standards, okay? These measures. However, ask yourself this. This is one of the most popular games from the last decade. How well do you think this game would have done in this course? Okay? How well do you think, is it getting an A, a B? Is it getting massive complaints from the staff? It would. C minus. So the problem with this, with Flappy Bird, was that Flappy Bird would probably get wrecked on the interesting decisions. mostly, in that there's really only one. There's not really a diversity of decisions, and it's very repetitive, right? And so our course actively dissuades students from creating a game, right, that is one of the most popular designs of the last decade. Does that seem a little bit strange to you? It seems like something has gone wrong. What about a game like Gone Home, which is kind of more of a kind of narrative, a very slow-paced adventure game? And I'm not sure if there are any decisions in Gone Home. You're kind of more just investigating and seeing what happens in kind of an interesting environment that is very thematic and very emotional. But gosh, there aren't a whole lot of interesting decisions in it, right? If Flappy Bird up here isn't the most juicy game either. You'd probably get hurt there too. And so, these two popular games, right, there's this disconnect, right? The class requires these things, but it's keeping you from doing these other interesting things, you know? And so here's something to consider. You should not let EECS 494 restrict your creativity anymore, okay? You're gone, you're out of here, you're gonna get your fantastic grade, and you're free. You don't have to make an interesting decision game anymore. You can make a game, you don't have to make a well-guided game. You can go out there and make a game that deliberately tries to confuse the player and maybe just stumble upon the next big thing, right? And so this is to say, it feels terrible for the staff because we have to provide some sort of rubric that is semi-objective, as objective as we can make it, so that students kind of know where they are and how to pass the course, right? And what they should aim for, right? We're trying to take this infinite design space of crazy new ideas lying out there. Who knows what could be out there, right? And we have to kind of contort it and shape it into this small confined space that we can grade without, with any form of standardization and objectivity, okay? So that's the reason we have to do this, and it always feels terrible, okay? But don't let us confine your creativity anymore. Go out and do something super weird, all right? And the final thing I want to tell you is a really, really cool saying by a famous Japanese poet, Matsuo Basho. And so if you go, I can't remember, I think it's Osaka. If you go to Osaka, there's a hill where you can find Matsuo's writings and inscriptions kind of littered along this big hill as you climb up, and you can read what they say. Right? And they're everywhere. And it's just super cool on this kind of journey up this hill and this mountain. Right? And there he is. And so the saying he had was, do not follow in the footsteps of the wise. Seek what they sought. Okay? So as professors, we're trying to tell you what we think will help you, right? What we think will lead you to make a great experience and a great game, okay? And usually this is pretty accurate, but who's to say there isn't a better way, right? Who's to say there isn't a better way to do juice, or something more important than interesting decisions to consider, all right? So when you listen to your instructors, okay, and when you listen to instructors for other courses, when you listen to your boss, when you listen to a famous game designer like Sid Meier tell you what makes a great game, know that that's useful. Use that information, but don't let it force you down a certain path, okay? Don't follow in the footsteps of those trying to teach you. Seek the same thing they sought, okay? Try and find a new way. Forge your own path to victory in a fantastic game experience, okay? You can do it. Find a new path. Use what you know from what we've told you, and you're going to make something super impactful. I know it. I can't wait to hear about it, and I'm so proud of all of you. Thank you all so much. And whatever you do, keep iterating, okay? And you'll get to wherever you want to go, given enough time. All right. Thank you all so much, everyone. It's been a really, really great semester and a lot of fun lectures interacting with you. I hope you had a good time. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. And tomorrow, we will see you for our final showcase. It's going to be a fantastic, fantastic night, okay? If the stream goes down, not a disaster. Corbin Reeves, my colleague at EMU, would take over the stream, and he has a much better connection than I have here, okay? So it's going to be a fantastic night no matter what happens. Thank you all so much for playing and joining us, and we will see you next time, all right? Take care, everyone. I'm going to stick around for probably about 5 more minutes to answer any of your questions. Otherwise, we will see you then, okay? All right. I will post this. This is actually the moment, if we were in person, where I would give you a cool sticker with the Block M logo that you just saw in a unique color for your semester. So I feel sorry, very sorry that you can't have that. However, if you can find me in person in the future, I do have extras that I can give you, okay? So please come and find me if you can. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so much fun to teach this course. Okay, let me post this really quickly. What if the real milestones... Oh, all right, that's funny. And I'm going to post this right here. Here we go. Really big text right here. And can make it small like that. All right. Congrats on GATS-K. Does anyone, by the way, does anyone know what language this is? Hold on. A Final Fantasy Victory theme. You deserve this. You deserve this song instead of the gloomy Star Fox song. Okay, everyone, let's go. You made it. Well done, team. Level up, all of you. Level up your impact. Okay. So, Pig Latin. Yes, that is Pig Latin. And what's interesting is that I had to... I can't remember why we did this many exactly, but this took I think an hour or so to find all the different ways to say congratulations. Right? So we've got English, we've got Pig Latin, we've got Chinese, we have... Oh, I have no idea. I know that's Japanese. Yeah. But perhaps some of these, we have such a wonderful, distributed, and diverse student body. I wonder how many of these we all recognize. That's super, super cool. Anyway, okay. Does anyone have any questions, or for tomorrow? Can you add Pog? I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, sure. I'll make it a. Oh, hey, how about this one? How about this one? You see this one? That's a little bit of a unique one down there. I've got a. We're gonna add an Easter egg. Right here. There you go. I wonder if it will ever be found. I'm going to put it on the row 1000. I wonder if anyone will ever find it again. Yep, congratulations in Hex. That's right. Hidden trophy. Absolutely, absolutely. Let's get some better tunes going. So everyone's excited about tomorrow, I hope. Is everyone a little bit nervous? When will the Discord server be ready for tomorrow? That's coming right after this, right now. I actually had a lecture. Okay, so the canceled lecture this morning came right before a lecture I had to do, and then an office hour I had to do for that other course. And now I'm getting to this, and after that I can do the finish up the Discord server. Okay? Yes, you're nervous. Don't be too nervous. What's cool about the website is that it's static, and it's hosted on Amazon as a static a static CloudFront distribution. So there is literally no server that can go down. The only way that this website and its contents don't work and aren't accessible is if the whole of Amazon's infrastructure falls apart. Okay, and that would not be good. So what you should do is you should build your confidence by going to the preview website, downloading your game, checking your trailer, and then playtest your game to make sure there aren't any game-breaking bugs. If there are small bugs, right, then that's not a huge deal, okay? But play your game for a little while until you're convinced that it's probably going to go all right for most players. Then it's good. Nothing needs to change unless you send us a new image or something, or a new trailer, or a new file. And it's going to work, right? Players are going to go there. They're going to have a great time. They're gonna put some cool stuff into your Discord channel, and it's gonna be awesome. Okay. Can you explain what teams might have to do for setup at 6 p.m. tomorrow? Play your game, check it out on the final version of the website, which is going to go live at about 6:30, and then just tell us if there's something wrong, I guess. If your game has a game-breaking bug, then you will want to put that, you'll want to fix it real quick. You'll want to swap the itch.io build that you have up there. If you're bored, you've got some nervous energy or something, and you don't want to study for your other courses, you can upgrade your itch.io page, make it a little bit more likely for more people on the internet to play it. You can remind your friends and family to come and check it out and have fun. But yeah, you can play each other's games. That's a pretty good time. Usually there's a big setup process that happens at 6 because everyone has to move their physical computers and get their monitors from the equipment room and stuff and get it all set up in the atrium because everything's in person. And we have to route the power and we have to move tables and we have to do all sorts of stuff, set up an exhibit. So we've got, people 3D print 3D models of their characters and bring them in. They bring in costumes. There's so much stuff that has to be done at an in-person experience that we don't have to do with the digital experience. So it's very interesting. There's a certain amount of energy that we just can't really get, but it's much more accessible, so we can have much more people come, people who've since left campus, right? People working on the East Coast, the West Coast, alumni from Sony Santa Monica, alumni from Sucker Punch, all these different studios working everywhere. We can have them come. It's a good time, for sure. Does anyone know what music this is from? This is from a fairly recent game. Very popular, though. That's right. That's right. Yeah, this is the ending music. The dark... Is it the dark side of the moon? Yes, it's the dark side of the moon, I think. Where you have kind of your final challenge, and then at the very end of that challenge, you climb up an enormous Empire State Building. And that Empire State Building has a line, a little pole going up at the very top of it. And you just climb it for like 60 seconds while this plays. And you get a little, your sidekick kind of reminisces a little bit about all the stuff you've done. It is so well put together, very well timed, and very touching as well. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is about it. 5 minutes. Played this game so many times. Only game I've tried speedrunning. Yes, speedrunning is awesome. So I am going to go before Sonic gets me all hyped up. All right. I'm going to be on Discord server when I'm totally finished with the website. In the Discord server, I'm going to give you an invite to go to it. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow for the big show. Okay. Get some sleep tonight, and tell your friends and family so they can enjoy your efforts. Okay. You deserve it. You're gonna have a fantastic night, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.